You're listening to Bro Down Podcast all fucking day. Oh, yeah.
What is happening, Bro Down listeners? I'm Andy Smith.
And I'm Tim Fulton.
And this is the Bro Down Podcast, Fight Fan Weekly.
Fight Fan Weekly.
Yes.
We got some cool Fight Fan news for you guys.
All right.
So Amanda Nunes is announcing that she is contemplating retirement.
I like how you did that like a fucking Facebook clickbait article. She's announcing that she is contemplating retirement.
Our thumbnail is just going to be a picture of her face with a red circle around it.
Yeah.
And people gasping.
And like all the letters have a dash in between words that don't have dashes in them.
For whatever reason.
But anyway, continue, Seth.
So when I read this, it said because she's expecting a child, she is contemplating a retirement. And
she's not pregnant. Her wife is.
My first thought was, she fucking fought while pregnant? This dumbass bitch. And then I was like, wait, I have a lot of facts wrong here.
That's a Viking move. Vikings would do that shit. If she did that, I wouldn't be happy. But she would go down as the baddest person in human history.
Bad for a lot of reasons.
Both sides of that coin.
Both sides of that coin.
Both sides of that coin.
So, yeah. So
I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying.
So her wife is with child. I guess she wants to do the whole family thing. She's probably made fucking buco bucks up to this point. She probably isn't, like, out of options when it comes to making more money because people are going to pay her to do things.
I'm going to tell you what it is. There's nobody else. There's nobody else. She's beaten Ronda Rousey, right? There's 3 women that were, well, I guess 4 women after the fact, but there was 3 in the beginning. And there was one not dark horse, there was one queen, this uncrowned queen that had been uncrowned for a long time. You had Cyborg. She was the one that was always there, always around. Guys. The 3 horsemen in the women's UFC divisions was Ronda Rousey, Holly Holm, and Miesha Tate. Because Ronda, how dare you not turn your phone on silent?
I don't ever get messages.
I will break it.
My friend is here who is messaging me.
So you had Ronda Rousey. She beat Miesha Tate twice.
Okay.
But then you had Holly Holm come in, head kick, knock out Ronda Rousey. And then you had Miesha Tate come in, choke out Holly Holm.
It's like they all had different pieces of the puzzle.
Exactly. MMA math doesn't make sense. Amanda was like, oh, yeah, that's cool. Watch this. I'm going to beat the fuck out of all you. I'm gonna make Ronda look like she's a person out of the crowd. I'm gonna come in and smash Miesha Tate, and then I'm gonna head kick Holly Holm the way she head kicked Ronda Rousey. And then I'm gonna beat up a lot of people that most people never even heard of. And then I'm gonna knock out Cyborg. I'm gonna knock her out cold in her game, in a brawl. And then it's like, who else is there? Beat a bunch of other girls that are really good, but they're not on her level. And there's something to be said for when you're that good, what keeps you motivated? If you don't think that anyone else and nobody else thinks there's anyone else, and from the looks of the landscape, she's already beaten everyone, and it looks like there is no one else that's going to challenge her, legitimately have a challenge. I mean, everyone can win a fight, but legitimately have a challenge. How do you get motivated to want to fight? You don't want to beat up. You don't want to punch down.
That's a good point. And we talked about this last time. Maybe there's something to her retiring now that will let her retain the GOAT status, right? She's at the top. There's no denying that she's currently at the top of her game.
Yeah.
They're really, I mean, what is she going to do? Get a 3rd title? Not impossible, but...
She'd have to drop down to 125.
Yeah, not realistic weight-wise.
That's the other thing. She cleared out 2 divisions.
2 divisions.
Not 1, 2.
And she owns both of them.
Yeah. So
there's nowhere left for her to go. So if she slowly eases herself out, she will always be the undisputed GOAT.
You know what's fucked is that the only fight that people want to see with her that I can tell is between Valentina Shevchenko.
I know.
She's 2 weight classes lower than what she just fought at. They've already fought twice, and Amanda's won both times. The fact that somebody she already beat 2 times, so one of them was close decision. They're pretty close fights, but she beat her twice. The fact that that's the most compelling fight, and it's 2 weight classes below the one she just fought at, shows you how there's not anyone left in her divisions right now.
Yeah, it's scary when you think about it in a weird way.
But she also doesn't owe it to anyone to not retire or to retire. She could just go on beating girls up that are not as good as her and collect paychecks. She's earned it.
Yeah, She could do either or.
Yeah. I don't know if anyone's gonna pay to watch that. If she starts demolishing chicks the way Cyborg did, then people will pay to watch it because it's the Tyson effect, right?
Yeah. I don't know. Part of me would be interested to see the division clear up a little bit so we can get a little bit more competition in there, like realistic competition.
Yeah, I think it's going to be almost like when it's going to be a little different as it evolves, but I think it's going to be one of those, if she decides to stay in, you're going to get this Ronda Rousey thing where it's just unbeatable, this, that, and the other thing, and then someone's going to come in, they're going to think that she's cannon fodder, and she's going to blow her out of the water, and then we're going to be like, wait a minute. But the thing is with Amanda is that she's beaten all the one-trick ponies. She's beaten all the girls that are well-rounded. She's beaten the Mike Tyson in Cyborg. She's beaten the calm, cool, collected game planner in Holly Holm. She's beaten the standout in Duran Duranime. Like she's beaten them all.
Yeah.
Like
so what is left?
So what's left? It's gonna have to be this girl we've never heard of yet.
Yeah.
It's gonna be this young prospect that comes out of nowhere who's just the next generation.
I mean, best case scenario, a year from now, we're excitedly talking about prospects.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe it is the right move for her. Maybe it's not. But
someone's going to have to come in like Conor McGregor and talk mad shit to get her to come back to fight them so that they can make a name.
And that's the other thing. She's saying she's retiring. We'll see her in a couple of years.
Yeah.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts.
Next.
Joe Silva.
Okay.
So it's your turn. What's up?
So Joe Silva has been in the MMA news lately. Joe Silva used to be the UFC matchmaker forever. Matchmaker, make me a match. Okay, so Joe Silva was the UFC matchmaker forever. Always was talked about, but he was one of those guys where when you mention his name, if you were a UFC fan, even if you were an avid UFC fan, you would know the name, but you wouldn't really have a face to put it with necessarily because he kind of was in the spotlight, but not in the spotlight. Never did a lot of interviews or anything like that. And I remember always having this weird, like, why? Like, me and my buddy talk about, like, this guy's the guy that makes all the matches. Like, Dana White's right in front of everything. He's in your face. He says the fuck word a lot. Like, all this shit. But Joe Silva was one of those guys. He always got talked about. Was always the matchmaker. But, like, was kind of, like, in the spotlight, but out of the spotlight. And there was always this weirdness to that. Where, like, he would be at some announcements and he would talk a little bit, but, like, it was always just, like, this awkward, not awkward, but just a strange kind of a setup.
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
And I don't know who brought it out first. It was Gray Maynard, but basically everyone's coming out now and just talking about how much of a scumbag this guy was, if you're taking their word for it. Like, basically accusing him of like shit talking people before they go out to fight, saying like, hey, if you don't win this fight, like you're getting fired. Have a good night. Shit like that. Or like, you know, some guy has a bad contract negotiation and they go up to the opponent and they're like, I want you to hurt him. Like fucking hurt this guy. And then like John Fitch said that he negotiated his contract and he got way more money because I guess he was in negotiation with Joe Silva, and Joe Silva was like, no, fuck you, you're not worth that much. And then he ended up getting it signed with Dana White. And then Silva was just like, the second that you lose, we're going to fucking pay you out for the rest of your contract and re-sign you for half as much because it's going to be cheaper for us, and that way you don't get paid. Like, you don't know who to believe in these things, but there's been a lot of fighters that are coming out with stories that are all kind of the same genre of like that douchey guy behind the scenes behavior. And it could be just, you know, disgruntled employees or fighters thinking that they're not whatever. But Gray Maynard was another one who said, you know, he was saying after the one guy came out and told the story about how Joe Silva asked someone to go out and hurt him for not whatever, or basically Gray Maynard came out and said, I was one of the guys that was asked to do that. Oh, like there was a thing that went bad. So they put me in there against this guy that wasn't really that good. They knew I was going to destroy him. And it was like toe the company line. But then he was saying like, when I finally got my thing, like I got fight of the year, I fought for 2 titles. He's like, he made sure I got paid the lowest amount in my contract. And he's just like, Like, a lot of things are coming out with this guy, and he
That's
hasn't been with
so-
the UFC for some time now.
Oh, good.
But it was always
So
strange.
weird.
Like, because, and I'm not saying like me and my buddies that were talking about him, like, had like this foresight that he was like some mastermind evil person. But because of that awkwardness for years of him, like, he's always there, but he's never there, like in the spotlight.
Ignore the man behind the curtain.
In the gut feeling, it's like I tend to think that some stuff like that might have some validity to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because that seems like he acts like somebody in from what I remember that might do shit like that. Totally speculative. But it just seems like it could be there's some merit to some of the things these guys are saying.
It's fact.
Yeah, like he would tell people like you're not good enough to be this or you're not good enough to be that and you're just a 500 fighter and all this stuff. So,
That's fucking... That kind of shit bothers me. Part of me wants to keep, like, the curtain in front of my eyes and not know about all the politics behind the scenes, but at the same time, you can't do that.
yeah. It's all
I don't-
speculation.
it's
Just
all- yeah.
it's he said, she said. Joe Silva, I don't think, has commented on any of this so far.
It's probably best he doesn't.
But he's one of those guys that never liked the spotlight, really, anyway. So, whatever. It's just a fun conversation to have. So,
Fun conversation. You know that guy? He's a fucking dirtbag.
scumbag, bro.
Scumbag.
Yeah, I don't know if it's true or not, but it's something that's being talked about a lot right now.
If it did happen, it's a shame that that kind of thing can
It's a dirty
be,
business.
Yeah, the dirty bit, like, kind of
Dirty
shit
business.
bothers me like crazy.
Next up.
Next up, Hall versus Romero.
Okay, so Uriah Hall. You know who Uriah Hall is?
I do. We saw him fight a couple of times.
Yeah.
Not a lot, but a couple of times. It's
Crazy,
been a while.
crazy good striker
Yeah.
against Romero. This fight is interesting. I would not expect them to put this fight on, but I think if Romero has a fucking spectacular outing, he's right back up there in talks of a title shot or title eliminator shot. Like, he's always in the mix. He's going to be fighting till he's 106.
Yeah.
Hall is one of those guys who he's either hot or he's cold.
We had this conversation about him, and I think last time he fought, he was cold.
You know what? I
think he
don't
lost.
remember, but
It's gonna bother me. Can I have the mic? Or
yeah. Look him up. Yeah. I mean, I would have to say that Romero takes this one, but Uriah Hall's no joke, dude.
Yeah, you never know. I mean,
And after the last performance with like Izzy and Yoel, were like they just had a standstill.
I'm still kind of like taken aback by that fight.
Yeah.
That was such a weird experience.
You
You
know-
know, like
Yeah. I was talking about this with somebody earlier today, with how underrated and underappreciated Robert Whitaker is.
why?
Because Robert Whitaker fought Yoel Romero twice and almost lost both those fights. Some people thought Yoel won the second fight, definitely. But he went 5 rounds with Yoel twice, and they didn't have the kind of fight that he did fight Carlos Jr.
Oh, you know what? I'm wrong. He's off of 2 wins.
Yeah. So
Long time ago. Well,
He-
not long time ago.
yeah, so he fought Yoel twice, and Yoel dropped him in both fights, like had him hurt to where he almost finished him, right? And they went back and forth in this a couple crazy exchanges. And I think that took a lot off of Robert's chin, especially like going in his career, because Yoel changes people
Yeah.
when he fights them. And then Izzy was in there with him. Izzy took one big shot that kind of landed. And as soon as he did that, it was like a stalemate
It
for
was.
the rest of the fight.
So weird.
And it's crazy because like Izzy was the one that was calling out Yoel and like all this stuff. So it was kind of awkward to see that kind of a fight because Yoel, he lulls you to sleep and everything, but he's been in boring fights, but he usually always has some exciting moments in the fight. There was none in that fight.
And it was
Almost none.
5 rounds of it.
Yeah.
It was 25 minutes of watching 2 people kind of skirt around with an
Yeah.
occasional punch or some weird ass thing.
And what's crazy is this, like Paul Acosta is going to fight Izzy next.
Yeah.
And Yoel and Paul Acosta fought and had that crazy war.
I remember that.
That war where most people would be dead.
Yeah.
And
But they're both such beasts.
yes, but it's interesting to me because Paul Acosta and Yoel basically were mirror images of each other in that fight, just going shot for shot.
Yeah.
So how is Izzy going to react to that?
I don't know because that's not the same Yoel that we saw in the Izzy match.
No, and I think it was because Izzy was not engaging. Now, it's both guys are to blame because both guys weren't engaging. But I think the reason why Izzy was not engaging is because he was not confident that Yoel would not switch to wrestling. I don't think he's going to be as hesitant with Paulo Costa because he doesn't have the wrestling pedigree that Yoel has. And he's not going to be that worried as he would have been against Yoel about picking him up and slamming on his head and not being able to get up. So I think it'll be a different fight. But again, Yoel is probably the scariest dude at any point in time in the division, if not in the UFC. So he's that dude who Teddy Atlas says it about Deontay Wilder. He has an eraser on his hand. He can make 1,000 mistakes in his essay, but he's just one of these, and it erases all of them. It just erases all the mistakes that were made in the fight.
Everything just goes away.
Everything goes away. So I'm excited for that fight. That's a fun fight.
I'm excited for it.
I'm excited too.
Why the fuck not? All right, so we're going to be doing a little bit of a fight forecast for you guys for this upcoming weekend. We have fight, I think it's just a fight night.
Yeah, I think it's a fight night. I forget which one it is. But we got to throw out some love to Jersey's own Jim Miller.
What's up, Jim?
He's fighting Roosevelt Roberts, who just fought on May 29th.
They are running out of fighters, dude.
Well, he did so well. Remember he fought the guy Brock? The guy that was kind of like dressed up like the Native American. He had the fucking headdress when he walked out.
Oh, yeah.
Remember we said he looked really good? He was on point, and he was doing very, very well. And I said, we were talking about the podcast. I said, this is a guy to watch. He's an up-and-comer. He's looking like better every time we see him. He's fighting less than 2 weeks from now.
That's crazy.
No, he's fighting in a couple
days.
In a couple days. But he only fought, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, we're going to look it up right this second.
Yeah, so it'll be 3 weeks from his last fight because he fought on May 30th.
May 30th.
Yeah.
It's June. This weekend is going to be June 23rd.
June 20th.
June 20th. That's crazy.
Yeah. So it'll be exactly 3 weeks.
That's not that damn.
Yeah. So this is going to be a real eye opener to how good Roosevelt Roberts is, because Jim Miller is a fucking savage.
Yeah.
He's been in the game a long time. Every time people think that he's done and out, he comes back and has like this crazy victory where he pulls out a submission or he pulls out something. He's a crafty veteran. He's been in the game a long time. He's been in there with some of the scariest dudes on the planet. For Roosevelt Roberts coming up, this is one of those things where they're putting like the next chess piece in front of him. And we're like, can you get in front of this?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you can, you may move on to the next level. But this is a big piece that he's got to get through in Jim Miller, because of his experience and the fact that he's been in so many of these fights. It's not an easy fight for anyone to fight Jim Miller. So this is one of those like the old guard meets the new guard,
and we get to see
if Jim Miller can pull off another crazy victory, or if Roosevelt Roberts is ready to step up to the next level, because Jim Miller is that guy. Like, I hate to use the word gatekeeper because it downplays a guy's career, and it almost like you're looking at them like they're never going to be in title contention again. I don't like using that because it almost seems like a derogatory term.
Yeah, plus it almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy if once
Yes.
people start really perpetuating it.
Yes.
And you don't want to see that happen either, because you never know. Guys
No.
can don't call it a comeback.
Yeah,
They've been here for
exactly.
years.
But to a certain extent, I do have a lot of respect for that term, because it means that you fought so much and you are so good that you are the definition of the next level. Like, you are the guy that is so tough to beat that we test guys against you to see if they're ready for the big time. Like, it's a term of endearment and at the same time a term that is not looked on very favorably. But he is in that position where he is the guy where if you beat him, you are ready to go to the next level, because he is that tough, and he has been in that many fights where he's proven himself. So I'm excited for this fight.
He's Goro.
Just nothing like him. But yes, he is.
But like Goro is like
The metaphorical Goro.
The metaphorical Goro. Once you get to Goro, you know you're in the big leagues.
Yeah.
And if you get past him, you know the real shit is about to happen.
And Goro's a bad motherfucker.
And he's a badass motherfucker.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going with. All right, up next.
I bet you Jim Miller would choke out Goro.
Probably. Curtis Blaydes versus Alexander Volkov.
Yeah, so
I don't know.
You know these guys.
What UFC is. How do you win?
You don't know what UFC is? How do you win?
How do you score points?
Score points. There's a basket and there's a puck.
And you pay off the judges. That's how it works, right?
Okay, so we got Curtis Blaydes versus Alexander Volkov.
Is Alexander the one that's freakishly tall?
Yes. Volkov was the guy, I believe, who was fighting Derek Lewis and was winning the whole fight. And in the last 10 seconds, I think 10 seconds, he got knocked out. Because he tried going at and not playing with him, but like engaging when he should have just been on his bike. So Curtis Blaydes is another guy who he's right there. Crazy wrestling, holds you down, has knocked people out on the ground before. Like, no joke. He's beaten a lot of good guys.
Yeah.
But then every time he gets to like that next level, it just falls short. And these two are kind of in the same category right now, right? There's like, there's 4 spots filled on the varsity team, and there's 1 spot left, but there's 2 guys trying out. And these are the 2 guys trying out. So they're in that spot where one guy's going to go up and another guy's going to go back to the drawing board. And I don't know who the fuck it's going to be because both of these guys have the ability to beat one another big time. Like Curtis Blaydes has a grappling advantage.
Yeah.
His striking has been looking a lot better, but Volkov, I believe, has a striking advantage in this. So,
it's one of those things of who gets who.
Yeah.
In what way.
And they're both freakishly large men. Like Volkov is the tall, long guy. Curtis is like, I think he's 6'4", but he's broad. Like he's a big guy. This is just going to be a good fight. I think this is going to be a good like.
You're getting me all amped up.
Yeah, but it's just going to be one of those like you can enjoy it. Like this is what the sport is about.
Yeah.
Because I don't have a dog in this fight, so we can just watch it. Like just watch the fight. 2 very highly skilled guys that haven't made a huge name for themselves yet, so they're hungry, they're up and coming, they want to get after it, and they're fighting for this next spot, this next big fight. So, and it's 2 guys that were pumped up in the past and they had a loss or 2 losses or, a little bit of a derailment, but they're back on track. So this could be the beginning of one of them for like 2-3 years from now. It's like, oh, this is the fight that changed their path of their career.
Don't get me excited, dude.
Yeah.
Don't make me feel like that this is going to be a moment.
So I'm excited.
I'm excited too. All right, so I don't want to run too long, but I had a question for you.
Yes, sir.
I had this thought the other day, and I waited for the podcast to ask you this.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on ice cream? No. So... No, so we were watching, I forget what fight it was, and it just occurred to me, what are your honest thoughts on 5-round fights?
Like, are they too long?
Yeah.
Okay. I've heard a number of fighters say, one in particular that I know thinks that they're too long is Chael Sonnen. And how I feel about that right off the bat is, I've definitely never fought in a fucking cage.
Yeah.
Well, I've never fought in a cage. Never fought professionally, never fought amateurly, none of that. All out the window. My opinion is dog shit. Let alone somebody that's gone 5 rounds. He knows better than me.
That's
Whether
fair.
it's his opinion or not, he knows what that's like.
That's fair.
And he's a professional athlete. The issue that I run into as a fan is it's the only way I can think of to give a difference in title fight versus non-title fight. I think anything more than 5 rounds is ludicrous.
I agree with that.
Is ludicrous. Anything less than 5 minutes, you're not giving grapplers enough time.
Okay.
Because if you go out there and it takes you 2 minutes to get a takedown, you finally get the takedown, but you're using boxing time with 3-minute rounds, you got a minute to work. It favors the striker.
Yeah. I think you and I are almost wholly in agreement when it comes to the time within rounds. Because you're right. It's you have to get past, if someone's a good striker, you have to get past that if you're a grappler. You have to give them a chance to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And if it's a 2-minute round and they spend a minute just getting to the legs, you don't have a lot of time to do it. I mean, things can happen, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay. So
Pride used to do a 10-minute first round.
that's crazy.
It's crazy, but it favored the grapplers a lot.
Makes sense.
Because if you got put on your ass 2 minutes in, you got 8 minutes left to go. You just can't hang out there.
No.
So,
For the sake of argument, let's pretend still 5-minute rounds. Though that's locked in.
okay.
We'll pretend that that's by law. It's mandated by the heavens.
I think I like 5 rounds
Okay.
from a selfish, purely not worried about anyone's health or whatever standpoint. I like 5 rounds because it does separate the champions and the main eventers from the rest of the crowd, right? It also brings into play a different aspect of the sport. You can't just put your foot on the gas pedal.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Right?
It does change things.
You have to now. It allows for the okay. You want to sprint? You can sprint, but if you don't fucking knock me out, now you got 4 more rounds to go, not 2.
Yeah.
So you might want to think twice about the sprint, or you might just want to go for it. But know that it's going to favor the long distance runners, which have a hard time sometimes in the 3-round fights because they can't get their, like we've all seen those fights where the guy wins the first 2 rounds, loses the 3rd round, and everyone is like, if that was 2 more rounds, who would have won?
See, that's almost my problem with it, though. And I completely see your point, but it's almost like you're playing 2 different sports. You're not.
Yeah.
But it's almost like, and I'm saying this just for the sake of fucking argument. Like, I mean, I care, but I don't really care. Like,
Yeah.
if they weren't to change it ever, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
But if you've made your career or like your progression off of being this like heavy hitter, and then you get into a 5-round fight, it's almost kind of like it almost doesn't feel fair. You know what I mean? It's almost like you're doing something different just because someone says, well, now the rules have changed.
That's true.
Which literally it physically is, I guess.
But think about all the dudes who weren't God gifted with power and had to fight through cardio in 3 rounds. Now they actually like, hey, I can actually implement my game plan because there's 2 more rounds. I had to suffer my whole career, and I don't have the gift of the Tyson power, so I had to fight like this. So now it's my time to shine.
Yeah, that's true too. But
and also too, there's no guarantee it goes 5 rounds. Fighting is one of the only sports in the world where the game doesn't have to take place over a set allotted amount of time.
That's true.
It can end at any point in time. I think anything more than that is ludicrous for 2 reasons: for safety, and because you start making guys do what would happen in boxing, right? So boxing used to be like unlimited rounds back in the day, like way back in the day. And then they started shortening it. And then for a long time, it was 15 rounds. It's a ridiculous amount of time. It's 45 minutes.
that's ridiculous.
Right? 45 minutes
That's insane.
of fighting. So what you had is like, the first couple rounds or whatever, like guys would just like, you could tell guys were like, listen,
We ain't doing anything.
like fucking, we're both going to be. Then you had some savages that would just go after it, but then they lowered it to 10, and title fights 12, I think. But you're getting closer to the sweet spot with that when you're talking about, all right, guys have enough energy to go that hard, but it's not short enough to where like guys can just blast out and not have to worry about cardio.
Yeah.
Like it's a touchy balance. You don't want it to be so long where guys are actively, both fighters are like, all right, we're going to take this round off because it's a necessity. It's a necessity that I take this round off. Not I'm going to take this round off because I didn't train hard enough.
Yeah.
Like it's just physically impossible to go hard for that many rounds. And I think that the UFC's flirting with that line with 5-round fights, but it's doable.
Okay.
It's doable. Talking from somebody that's sitting in a fucking chair not doing fucking shit.
I mean, it is what it is.
But I'm just saying, I like the fact because it splits it, and I liked it even more that they started doing all main events, because back in the day when you fought for a title, your only time to get 5 rounds in a real fight was in a title fight. So if your main eventing was a title fight and you never fought in a title fight, you're in totally uncharted waters.
That's it. That's your first chance.
Whereas now every main event is a title fight. So you might get, hey, I know what this feels like, so I got to alter my training because I wasn't as prepared as I thought I was for 5 rounds. Or maybe I got to pace myself more in the second or the third. Whereas if you don't want to learn that in a title fight.
No,
You don't want to learn how to do that in a title fight.
do
You want
agree
to
with-
know how to do that.
I do
Even if
agree
it comes
with
from
you.
a loss.
I do agree with you there. If there are 5-round fights, it should be both. It should just be all main events.
Yes.
That does make sense to me.
Yeah.
That's basically where I'm at.
Yeah. I like it. I like the conversation. I like the questions.
I like the questions too. I don't like your answer because you're a fucking idiot, but that's besides the point.
Wow.
Anyway, let us know what you think of 5-round fights. Are they better than 3-round fights? Are they worse than 3-round fights? Am I right? Is Andy right? Who fucking cares? Does nobody care? Let us know what you think of this weekend's upcoming fights and the fighters that's happening and all those news stories that we gave you because they're fucking dope as hell.
Daiquiris.
Don't forget to go to brodownpro.com as we ignore that comment. And we'll catch you guys next time.
You're listening to Bro Down Podcast all fucking day. Oh, yeah.